Chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga, meaning Arjuna's despair. It shows Arjuna's sadness when he sees the Kaurava army and realizes he has to fight his own relatives. Confused about what to do, he asks Lord Krishna for guidance after dropping his bow. The chapter sets the scene on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where the Kaurava and Pandava armies face each other. Sanjay, given divine vision by sage Ved Vyas, narrates the events to Dhritarashtra, describing the armies and the brave warriors. He also mentions that victory is assured for the side with Lord Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna advises us to seek a genuine spiritual master for true knowledge and love of God. This video features the original English translation of the Bhagavad Gita verses read by a male voice, and commentary from spiritual masters read by a female voice to make it easier to distinguish between the verses and the commentary.
Dhritarashtra said, "O Sanjaya, after assembling in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, what did my sons and the sons of Panda do, being desirous to fight?"
Dhritarashtra was born blind and lacked spiritual insight. He knew his sons were also blind in religious matters and wouldn't agree with the Pandavas. Sanjaya understood his concern about the battlefield and warned him that his sons wouldn't compromise. Duryodhana, seeing the Pandavas' army, went to the commander Drona to explain the serious situation. Despite being a good politician, Duryodhana couldn't hide his fear.
Sanjaya said, "O king, after looking over the army gathered by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and began to speak the following words."
Duryodhana, a clever diplomat, pointed out Drona's mistakes. Drona had a conflict with King Draupadi, who wanted a son to kill Drona. Despite knowing this, Drona taught Draupadi's son Drishtadyumna all his military secrets. On the battlefield, Drishtadyumna sided with the Pandavas. Duryodhana warned Drona to stay alert and not be lenient with the Pandavas, especially Arjuna, to avoid defeat.
"O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada."
Duryodhana pointed out Drona's mistakes. Drona had a conflict with King Draupadi, who wanted a son Drishtadyumna to kill Drona. Despite knowing this, Drona taught Drishtadyumna military skills. On the battlefield, Drishtadyumna sided with the Pandavas. Duryodhana warned Drona to fight without mercy, especially against Arjuna, to avoid defeat.
Here in this army there are many heroic bowmen equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjuna. There are also great fighters like Duryodhana, Virata and Drupada.
Though Drishtadyumna wasn't a big threat to Drona's military skills, many others were. Duryodhana saw them as major obstacles, as strong as Bhima and Arjuna. He knew their strength and compared the others to them.
There are heroic fighters like Drishtaketu, Sekatana, Kasiraja, Purujit, Kantabhoja, and Saibya. Mighty warriors like Udamenyu, Adamauja, Subhadra's son, and Draupadi's sons are also great chariot fighters. Let me tell you about the captains leading my army. There are personalities like yourself, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Asvathama, Vikarna and the son of Somadatta called Burisrava, who are always victorious in battle. There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons and all are experienced in military science. Our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. Now all of you must give full support to grandfather Bhishma, standing at your respective strategic points in the phalanx of the army.
Duryodhana praised Bhishma but worried others might feel less important. He stressed that Bhishma, though the greatest hero, was old and needed protection. Other heroes should stay in position to prevent enemy attacks. Duryodhana believed victory depended on Bhishma and hoped for his and Drona's support, as they stayed silent during Draupadi's humiliation.
Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly like the sound of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy. After that, the conch shells, bugles, trumpets, drums and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells. Then, Lord Krishna blew his conch shell, called Pankajanya, Arjuna blew his, the Devdatta, and Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Pandram. King Yudhishthir, the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, the Anantavijaya, and Nakula and Sahdeva blew the Sugosa and Manapuspaka. That great archer the king of Kasi, the great fighter Sikandi, Drishtadyumna, Virata and the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupada, the sons of Draupadi, and the others, O king, such as the son of Subhadra, greatly armed, all blew their respective conch shells.
Sanjaya told King Dhritarashtra that his plan to deceive the Pandavas and make his sons kings was unwise. The signs showed that the entire Kuru dynasty, from Bhishma to Abhimanyu, would be doomed in the battle. This catastrophe was due to Dhritarashtra's support of his son's policies.
The blowing of these different conch shells became uproarious, and thus, vibrating both in the sky and on the earth, it shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. O king, at that time Arjuna, the son of Pandu, who was seated in his chariot, his flag marked with Hanuman, took up his bow and prepared to shoot his arrows, looking at the sons of Dhritarashtra. O king, Arjuna then spoke to her Sakhiza, Krishna, these words. Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see who is present here, who is desirous of fighting and with whom I must contend in this great battle attempt. Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra.
Everyone knew Duryodhana, with his father Dhritarashtra's help, wanted to take over the Pandavas' kingdom through evil plans. Arjuna wanted to see who joined Duryodhana on the battlefield. He had no plans for peace, just wanted to assess their strength, confident of winning with Krishna by his side.
Sanjaya said, O descendant of Bharata, being thus addressed by Arjuna, Lord Krishna drew up the fine chariot in the midst of the armies of both parties.
Arjuna, called Gudakiza, conquered sleep and ignorance through his friendship with Krishna. As a devoted friend, he always thought of Krishna. This constant thinking, called Krishna consciousness, helped him stay focused. Krishna, understanding Arjuna's wish, placed the chariot in the middle of the armies.
In the presence of Bhishma, Drona and all other chieftains of the world, her Sakhiza, the Lord, said, Just behold, Partha, all the Kurus who are assembled here.
Krishna, knowing Arjuna's thoughts, called him Partha, son of Kunti, and reminded him of their friendship. When Krishna told Arjuna to behold the Kurus, he was asking if Arjuna wanted to stop fighting. Krishna, understanding Arjuna's hesitation, joked with him as a friend.
There Arjuna could see, within the midst of the armies of both parties, his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his father-in-law and well-wishers all present there. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. Arjuna said, My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I foresee only evil, O killer of the Kasai demon.
Arjuna was impatient and losing focus on the battlefield. Attached to material things, he saw only unhappiness in the battle, and thought winning wouldn't make him happy. He wondered, why am I here? Arjuna needed to follow Krishna's will, which is the true path to happiness.
I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I foresee only evil, O killer of the Kasai demon.
Because of his impatience, Arjuna couldn't stay on the battlefield and was losing focus due to his weak mind. Being too attached to material things confuses a person. Fear and mental imbalance happen to those too affected by material conditions. Arjuna saw only unhappiness in the battle and believed he wouldn't be happy even if he won. The word nimitta is important. When someone sees only disappointment, they wonder, why am I here? People care about themselves and their own well-being, not the Supreme Self. Arjuna should ignore his self-interest and follow Krishna's will, which is the true self-interest for everyone. Forgetting this causes suffering. Arjuna thought winning the battle would only make him sad.
I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsman in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness.
People don't realize that their true self-interest lies in Vishnu or Krishna. So they seek happiness in bodily relationships. They forget that Krishna is also the source of material happiness. Arjuna seems to have forgotten the moral codes for a warrior, Kshatriya. It's said that a Kshatriya who dies in battle under Krishna's orders and a person devoted to spiritual life can enter the powerful and dazzling sun globe. Arjuna is hesitant to kill his enemies, especially his relatives. He believes that killing them won't bring him happiness, so he doesn't want to fight. Just like someone who isn't hungry doesn't want to cook. He has decided to go to the forest and live a secluded life in frustration. However, as a Kshatriya, he needs a kingdom to live, since they can't do other jobs. Arjuna doesn't have a kingdom. His only chance to get one is by fighting his cousins and reclaiming his father's kingdom, which he doesn't want to do. So, he thinks it's better to live in the forest in frustration.
O Govinda, of what avail to us are kingdoms, happiness, or even life itself when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed in this battlefield? O Madhusadana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law and all relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, then why should I wish to kill them, though I may survive? O maintainer of all creatures, I am not prepared to fight with them even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth.
According to Vedic teachings, there are 6 types of aggressors. 1. Someone who gives poison. 2. Someone who sets a house on fire. 3. Someone who attacks with deadly weapons. 4. Someone who steals wealth. 5. Someone who takes another's land. And 6. Someone who kidnaps a wife. These aggressors should be killed immediately, and it is not sinful to do so. While this is suitable for ordinary people, Arjuna was not ordinary. He was saintly and wanted to act with kindness. However, as a warrior Kshatriya, he should not be cowardly. For example, Lord Rama was saintly and beloved by his people, but he was not cowardly. When Ravana kidnapped Rama's wife Sita, Rama punished him severely. In Arjuna's case, the aggressors were his own grandfather, teacher, friends, sons, and grandsons. Arjuna felt he should not treat them like ordinary aggressors. Saintly people are advised to forgive, which is more important than political needs. Arjuna thought it was better to forgive his relatives for religious reasons rather than kill them for temporary happiness. Kingdoms and pleasures are not permanent, so why risk his life and salvation by killing his relatives? Arjuna called Krishna Madhava, meaning the husband of the goddess of fortune, to remind Krishna that he should not lead Arjuna into misfortune. However, Krishna never brings misfortune to anyone, especially his devotees.
O Janardana, although these men, overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, with knowledge of the sin, engage in these acts?
A Kshatriya warrior should not refuse a battle or gamble when challenged by a rival. So Arjuna couldn't refuse to fight because Duryodhana's party challenged him. Arjuna thought the other side might not see the bad outcomes of the challenge, but he could see the harmful consequences and didn't want to accept it. Obligations are binding when they lead to good results, but not when they lead to bad ones. Considering all the pros and cons, Arjuna decided not to fight.
With the destruction of dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in a religious practice.
In the Varnasrama system, there are many religious traditions to help family members grow and gain spiritual values. Elders are responsible for these purifying processes from birth to death. If the elders die, these traditions might stop, and the younger family members might develop bad habits and lose their chance for spiritual salvation. Therefore, Arjuna thinks the elders should not be killed for any reason.
When irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become corrupt, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vrsni, comes unwanted progeny.
A good population is essential for peace, prosperity, and spiritual progress. The principles of Varnasrama religion aim to ensure a good population for the spiritual progress of society. This depends on the chastity and faithfulness of women. Like children, women can easily be misled, so they need protection from elder family members. Engaging women in religious practices prevents adultery, so they should be involved in family religious activities to maintain their chastity and devotion, leading to a good population. If Varnasrama Dharma fails, women may mix freely with men, leading to adultery and unwanted children. Irresponsible men also contribute to adultery, resulting in unwanted children and the risk of war and disease.
When there is increase of unwanted population, a hellish situation is created both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. In such corrupt families, there is no offering of oblations of food and water to the ancestors.
According to certain rules, families need to offer food and water to their ancestors regularly. This is done by worshipping Vishnu, as eating food offered to Vishnu can free one from sins. Sometimes ancestors suffer from sins and may remain as ghosts. Offering prasadam, blessed food, to them can release them from such suffering. This tradition is important for those not living a devotional life. However, those who are devoted to God don't need to perform these rituals. By serving God, they can free many ancestors from misery. The Bhagavatam says that anyone who fully devotes themselves to God doesn't owe duties to anyone else, as these duties are fulfilled through their devotion.
Due to the evil deeds of the destroyers of family tradition, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are devastated.
The 4 social orders and family welfare activities in Sanatana Dharma or Varnasrama Dharma help people achieve ultimate salvation. When irresponsible leaders break these traditions, it causes chaos, and people forget the true goal of life, which is Vishnu. These leaders are called blind, and those who follow them are led into chaos.
O Krishna, maintainer of the people, I have heard by disciplic succession that those who destroy family traditions dwell always in hell.
Arjuna's argument is based on what he has learned from authorities, not his own experience. This is the proper way to gain real knowledge. One needs guidance from someone who already has that knowledge. In the Varnasrama system, there is a process called Prayashchit Home for cleansing sins before death. Those who commit sins must use this process. Without it, they will go to hellish planets and suffer miserable lives because of their sins.
Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit greatly sinful acts, driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness.
Driven by selfish motives, one may be inclined to such sinful acts as the killing of one's own brother, father, or mother. There are many such instances in the history of the world. But Arjuna, being a saintly devotee of the Lord, is always conscious of moral principles and therefore takes care to avoid such activities.
I would consider it better for the sons of Dhritarashtra to kill me unarmed and unresisting rather than fight with them.
It is the custom, according to Kshatriya fighting principles, that an unarmed and unwilling foe should not be attacked. Arjuna, however, in such an enigmatic position, decided he would not fight if he were attacked by the enemy. He did not consider how much the other party was bent upon fighting. All these symptoms are due to soft-heartedness resulting from his being a great devotee of the Lord.
Sanjaya said, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief.
While observing the situation of his enemy, Arjuna stood up on the chariot, but he was so afflicted with lamentation that he sat down again, setting aside his bow and arrows. Such a kind and soft-hearted person, in the devotional service of the Lord, is fit to receive self-knowledge.
This concludes the explanations for the first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, titled Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra. The Sacred Duty of Hospitality, 5 Golden Arrows of Bhishma. In Vaishnav culture, welcoming guests, especially those who enlighten us with spiritual knowledge and inspiration, is a sacred duty. The example of Duryodhana and the Pandavas. A prime example of this principle is found in the Mahabharata during the Kurukshetra war. On the 7th day of the war, the Pandavas, particularly Bhima and Arjuna, inflicted significant damage on the Kuru army. Duryodhana, beaten down and bloody from his confrontation with Bhima, went to the tent of his close friend Karna, seeking his support. Karna, who had been sidelined due to Bhishma's influence, was eager to join the battle and vowed to kill the Pandavas if given the chance. However, Bhishma, aware of Karna's true identity as the Pandavas' brother, was reluctant to allow him to fight. When Duryodhana approached Bhishma, he was nursing his wounds, both physical and emotional. Bhishma, seeing Duryodhana's condition, treated him with special herbs, relieving him of his pain. Duryodhana, however, began questioning Bhishma's loyalty, suggesting that Bhishma's compassion for the Pandavas was preventing him from killing them. Insulted, Bhishma responded with fierce determination, vowing to kill the Pandavas the next day. He consecrated 5 special arrows with the power to end their lives, only to have Duryodhana take possession of them for safekeeping. Krishna's omniscience and Arjuna's request. Back in the Pandavas' camp, Krishna, knowing everything as the Supreme Being, warned Arjuna that he and his brothers would die the next day unless they acted. Krishna reminded Arjuna of a promise Duryodhana had made to him long ago, when Arjuna had saved Duryodhana's life from the Gandharvas. Krishna instructed Arjuna to go to Duryodhana and ask for the 5 arrows. Despite being in the midst of a war, the cultural etiquette of the time dictated that even enemies were to be treated with respect when they arrived as uninvited guests. Thus, when Arjuna entered Duryodhana's tent without armor or weapons, Duryodhana welcomed him, offering him a seat and water. When Arjuna asked for the 5 arrows, Duryodhana, though shocked, honored his promise and handed them over. The seriousness of hospitality and integrity. This episode underscores the seriousness with which hospitality and integrity were regarded in ancient times. Duryodhana's adherence to the principle of honoring a guest, despite the consequences, illustrates the deep-rooted values of dharma that even the most hardened warriors upheld. The concept of serving the uninvited guest with love and respect, regardless of their identity or intentions, was integral to maintaining the moral fabric of society. The dire situation. In the epic Mahabharata, there's a powerful story about Draupadi's unwavering devotion and surrender to Lord Krishna during a moment of utter helplessness. The tragic event unfolded when Maharaja Yudhishthira, in a fateful game of dice, lost everything, including his kingdom, his brothers, and even his wife, Draupadi. The wicked Dushasana then dragged Draupadi into the Kuru assembly to publicly humiliate her. Draupadi's helplessness. Draupadi was clothed in a single piece of cloth, and her hair was unbound, symbolizing her grief and disgrace. In the assembly, Dushasana attempted to strip her of her sari, a horrifying act of dishonor for any woman, especially in Vedic culture. Initially, Draupadi tried to protect herself by holding on to her sari, but she was no match for the physically powerful Dushasana. Desperate, she looked to the elders in the assembly, Drona, Bhishma, and others, for help, but they remained silent, bound by their allegiance to Duryodhana. Draupadi's prayer to Krishna. Realizing that no one in the assembly would come to her aid, Draupadi finally turned to her beloved Lord Krishna. With no other hope, she raised her hands and cried out to him, chanting his holy names in desperation. Krishna's immediate response. Hearing Draupadi's piteous cries, Krishna immediately intervened. He provided her with an endless supply of cloth, rendering Dushasana's efforts futile. The more Dushasana tried to pull off her sari, the more cloth appeared, until he was exhausted and had to give up. Draupadi was thus saved from the greatest dishonor through Krishna's divine intervention. Draupadi's question and Krishna's answer. Later, when Draupadi met Krishna, she asked him why he didn't protect her immediately when she first called out for help. Krishna explained, "At first, you relied on your own strength, trying to hold on to your sari. So, I thought, let her strength protect her. Then, you called upon Drona, Bhishma, and other elders. I thought, let them help. But when you called upon me alone, I immediately came to your aid. That is why I didn't come to help you immediately." Reflections on the story. This story is a profound lesson for all of us. In life, we will inevitably face difficult situations, much like Draupadi did. It is natural to seek help from our own strength, wealth, or others around us. However, this story teaches us that true and complete protection comes only when we fully surrender to God and call upon His holy name with faith. The scriptures clearly state that one who remembers Krishna or utters His holy name is immediately protected and freed from all sins. A devotee who has wholeheartedly surrendered to Krishna will always have his full protection. Krishna's divine protection. The Chariot of Arjuna. The epic battle of Kurukshetra. The battle of Kurukshetra was at its peak, with Arjuna and Karna locked in a fierce duel. The clash between these two mighty warriors was a sight to behold, as arrows filled the sky. Even the demigods watched this epic confrontation with bated breath. Each time Arjuna shot his arrows, The sheer force would push Karna's chariot back by 25 to 30 feet. The spectators were awed by Arjuna's skill and strength. Karna's valor. Karna, however, was no less formidable. His arrows, though displacing Arjuna's chariot by only 3 to 4 feet, were powerful enough to cause a significant impact. What puzzled many was that Krishna, serving as Arjuna's charioteer, would often applaud Karna's prowess but never praised Arjuna's feats. This left Arjuna wondering why his achievements were not being acknowledged by Krishna, despite his apparent success against Karna. Arjuna's query to Krishna. At the end of the day, Arjuna, perplexed by Krishna's behavior, asked, "O Lord, I have shot so many arrows at Karna's chariot, and it was being displaced like a feather in the wind, but not once did you appreciate me. Rather, you would appreciate Karna's skill despite his arrows just displacing my chariot a little." Krishna's enlightening response. Krishna, with a gentle smile, replied, "O Arjuna, remember, your chariot is protected by Hanuman at the top on your flag, me as your charioteer in the front, and by Sheshnag at its wheels. Yet, despite all these divine forces protecting your chariot, it still swayed and displaced whenever the valiant Karna hit it with his arrows. But Karna's chariot is not protected by any such divine force, he is on his own, yet he fights valiantly." Krishna's words made Arjuna realize the incredible strength and determination of Karna, who, despite lacking divine protection, fought with unparalleled courage. The chariot's ultimate fate. After the battle of Kurukshetra was over, Krishna instructed Arjuna to get down from the chariot first. Once Arjuna had alighted, Krishna also got down. The moment Krishna stepped off the chariot, it caught fire and was reduced to ashes. Krishna then revealed, "O Arjuna, your chariot was destroyed by Karna a long time ago. It was I who was protecting it all this time." The lesson in humility. Krishna's final words to Arjuna carried a profound lesson. Never in your life have the arrogance to say that you have achieved great heights on your own. If you have achieved something, it is the divine will, it is the divine intervention that has always protected you, cleared your path, and given you the right opportunities at the right time.